This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Brian and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. That's right, Geek Gab for Saturday, August 13th, 2016. This is episode 64, all about the Dragon Awards. But before we get into the main part of the show, we just want to announce, in case you haven't heard, actor Kenny Baker has passed away at the age of 83. Kenny Baker, best known for portraying R2-D2 inside the little metal suit for the original Star Wars and all of the movies since then. Also known for being one of my favorite roles, Fidget, on Time Bandits and another number of movies. Passed away at the age of 83 today. So condolences to his friends and family. 2016 once again rolls on, the bloody year of death. Other than that, how was your week, Brian?
My week was phenomenal. And I think we're going to get into why as the main topic of the show.
Okay. Anything else other than that?
Oh, yeah, I've been busy, been working on the sequel to Soul Dancer, titled The Secret Kings, Soul Cycle Book 3. Going to be coming out hopefully by Christmas. And I've also been working on another top secret project that hopefully I will be able to tell everybody about soon.
Excellent. My week has gone pretty much the way it normally does. Only thing really notable this week is I've been watching Batman the Animated Series, as well as House. I went online and found if you ever watched Batman the Animated Series, like the original animated series from 1990, the episodes were produced and broadcast in non-chronological order. So they jump around in the Batman timeline. So you might have an episode early on that was set way late in his career. In fact, the very first episode featured Man-Bat, which was very late in his career. And then, you might have an episode like 20 episodes in where Commissioner Gordon had just barely gotten the bat signal. So someone went through and tried to categorize all the episodes and put them in roughly chronological order. Like, okay, well, in this episode, it obviously is very, very early because Commissioner Gordon is still really uncomfortable with Batman's appearing and disappearing. So obviously that's really, really early. And then all of the episodes featuring gangsters and stuff are stuck early, and then gradually they start ramping up supervillains coming in, and then the more scientifically incredible supervillains coming in and things like that. So I went through my Batman the Animated Series episodes I have access to, and I've been watching it in this order, and it's been pretty interesting so far. I've only watched about 11 episodes, but I've quite enjoyed watching it in this order. It gives you kind of a feel of how Batman's career developed over the years, and it's the guy did a pretty good job, at least so far. Again, I've only watched 11 of the 60-something episodes, so I can't say it's the most definitive version, but it's been very interesting so far.
I'd love to do that. And I remember there being an episode where there was a flashback to where Batman had the old-style Batsuit and the old-style Batmobile. And I think it was one where he had to get the Batmobile replaced. And it was kind of the backstory on the Batmobile. So it'd be interesting to see where he fits that episode in.
See, I think he made note of flashbacks from this episode or from the movie. They did a 2-hour movie about one of the villains. He says, well, flashbacks for this episode or that episode fit in here. So if you really wanted to watch it in order, you could go and watch those flashbacks and put them in here. But so he probably had mentioned that in this write-up somewhere.
Nice. I'll have to watch that. I love how there are all these fan-curated projects like, Star Wars Revisited and the Batman the Animated Series. It's really fascinating.
Did I tell you about the alternate cut of The Hobbit?
Yeah, I've seen it. I think I know what you're talking about. There are a few of them, right?
Yeah, there are a couple of them. This one, the guy titled There and Back Again.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Oh,
so much better.
It's phenomenal. It's actually a good movie.
Well, of course, there is one good 90-minute movie hiding under all the accretions in those 3 bloated Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
So that might be a good time to talk about the letter by the former Warner Brothers staffer that's been going around that he retweeted.
Alleged former Warner Brothers staffer.
Allegedly.
We don't know for sure.
Right.
They just excoriate the current CEO of Sony for being, terrible and stupid and stupid and terrible and terrible and stupid, which they are.
Or isn't it Warner Brothers, or did Sony buy them now?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Warner Brothers. Apologies.
Okay. No, that's fine. But I love how she says, yeah, Peter Jackson phones it in, and some production assistant has to come up with plan B for his house payment.
Yeah, I mean, and they listed all these projects that were terrible. Jupiter Ascending, Get Hard, Hot Pursuit, Max, Vacation, Pan, Point Break. I mean, I don't know that I've even heard of most of those other than Point Break and Jupiter Ascending. That's how terrible they were. I never even heard of them.
Yeah.
And the rumors are Wonder Woman is a hot mess. So I don't know. It's certainly possible. They've been doing everything they can to ruin all the DC movies.
Yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder had some promise, turned in a couple movies with potential, but it's just baffling how he just keeps being given second and third and eighth chances when, yeah, I mean, if he was working fast food and he burned the fries this many times, he would be gone.
I think Zack Snyder did 3 incredible movies. I thought he did 3 incredible movies. Okay. I loved his 2004 Dawn of the Dead.
Right, agreed.
300 was just incredible. It was an awesome movie. And then his Watchmen movie was about as amazing as you could get, putting the Watchmen on the screen. Plus, the plot in the Watchmen movie made about 1,000% more sense than the plot of the actual comic itself.
See, that one's controversial because there are people who hate Zack Snyder's Watchmen with the fiery hatred of
I'm sure they do. I'm not talking about the plot as far as the writerly plot. I'm talking about the villain's plot. What he is planning on doing as a villain makes about 1,000% more sense in the movie than the telepathic squid creature from the comics.
No, I agree. I enjoyed Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie, and I completely agree with you on the villain plan.
And then the Sucker Punch movie is 5 incredible fight scenes that need good movies around them. And a bad movie wrapped around 5 incredible fight scenes. I mean, just 5 stupendously awesome fight scenes that need full movies built around those individual fight scenes.
Right.
He knows how to. I mean, every time I see that World War I tunnel fighting with undead monsters and mecha, I think, wow, if you could make a whole movie where that made sense, that might be a great movie because that's a great sequence.
Absolutely.
But the movie as a whole is just is it makes absolutely no sense at all. No sense at all. And everybody who tries to make sense of the movie has a different answer because it is impossible to make sense of that movie on any level whatsoever. You cannot make coherent, logical sense of the movie.
Okay. I haven't seen it. Listened to pretty extensive reviews, and that jives with what you're saying.
Have you watched Sucker Punch? Have you seen the movie?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then you just have to take my word for it. It's impossible to make logical sense of the movie. Whereas,
no, I do. You're not the only one saying that, so I believe you.
Whereas if you take something, because there are people who allege that you can make perfect sense of Sucker Punch, but every single one who alleges that makes a different movie out of it, which indicates to me that none of them know really what's going on.
All right, it's just like when you get people to come up with theories for various David Lynch movies. Like Lost Highway, which I actually do believe just is a straight coherent narrative. It's just it's told starting in the middle, and it kind of wraps around. Like there's a story I heard from a movie buff friend of mine. So again, take this with a grain of salt, but that Lynch was agonizing over the Lost Highway script, and he stopped into a local dive bar, near the studio to try to work on it, and was literally sketching out an outline on a cocktail napkin. And this random barfly next to him looked over, and was like, "Hey, what you doing?" And he explained, "I'm trying to write this movie script. I just can't get the story to work." He goes like, "Oh yeah, let me see." He picks up the napkin, stares at it for about 30 seconds. He's like, "Oh, here's what you need to do," and then folded it into a tube so that the ending and the beginning touched. And the story goes that Lynch just stared at it, picked up his and the guy's tab, went back home, and finished the movie.
I have no idea if that's true. I've never heard that before.
I'm going to bring something new. Yeah.
But Zack Snyder is an amazing, awesome visual director. He absolutely is a master at putting emotion and images on the screen, and he's very imaginative. He just should not be allowed anywhere near the writer's desk. They should just smack him across the face whenever he gets near the writers. They should have literally like squads of soldiers with bayonets on the ends of their rifles protecting the writers from him, and they should tell him, "No, stay away." And they'll say, "But I've got this cool idea for a plot twist," and they smack him again and say, "No, stay away."
Yeah, so you're basically saying he's in the same category as George Lucas.
No, because George Lucas is well, are you talking about modern George Lucas or old George Lucas?
Modern George Lucas.
Modern George Lucas is fat and lazy. Whereas modern Zack Snyder is a hard-working director. He just has some bizarre ideas, and he doesn't have anybody to... He works his ass off. He just doesn't seem to pare down his ideas.
Okay, so not enough challenge him, and perhaps that is the CEO's fault.
Well, yeah, and I blame every single executive at Warner Brothers because they let bad things go and they ruin good things, and nobody at Warner Brothers seems to have a clue what to do creatively with their properties. They need a Kevin Feige is what they need, and they don't know where to find one, which is fine because they're really rare in Hollywood. I can't think of another Kevin Feige in Hollywood. Who else could do what Kevin Feige has done, honestly?
The only guy I can think of is possibly Dino De Laurentiis, but that ship has sailed.
Yeah. And even like Roger Corman wasn't trying to build a coherent universe out of stuff. He was just making a hell of a lot of movies.
Including the only good Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
By accident. Over a weekend.
It's terrible. He's such a brilliant director, and he knows how to get evocative performances out of his stars. I mean, if you go back and look at 300 or Watchmen, except in the cases where he's actually cast a bad actress or actor in a part, he knows how to get performances out of people.
Yeah.
And he knows how to put together striking visuals. It's just that he has these story ideas and these decisions, these world-building decisions that are absolutely wonky and that kill, that will continue to poison the DC. I'm calling it the expanded universe now, or the extended universe, or whatever. That are going to poison it for years to come.
Oh yeah, we're going to have to wait after the dust settles. It's going to have to be another 10 years before they can make another standalone Superman movie. I mean, it's going to do what the Quest for Peace did.
Well, like Metropolis and Gotham being suburbs of each other? What the hell is that about? That's a terrible decision. And I know you read the same blog post I did.
Yeah.
Raleigh Nyanzi, is that how you pronounce his name?
I may not have read Rawls, who I was talking to earlier, but I read the one by Person of Wolfness.
Oh, maybe that's the blog post I'm thinking.
Is it the Gotham versus Metropolis?
Yeah,
like how it should be. Yeah, I think that was him. think that was
Um,
the wolf guy. Yeah.
yes, Person of Wolfness. Sorry, my apologies. I'm sorry. That's the blog post I meant about the differences between Gotham and Metropolis. But that's why they can't be. And I'll let you go into that blog post in just a second so the audience knows what we're talking about.
Right.
That's why they can't be suburbs of each other, because they're supposed to be two completely different cities. Superman is the man of tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And Metropolis is in many ways supposed to be the city of tomorrow. It's supposed to be this bright, gleaming Metropolis, you know? I mean, and yes, you have street crime and stuff, but it is absolutely not the top to bottom corrupt city that Gotham is. Gotham is very, very much, and I know this isn't what they intended Gotham to be when they first created it, when Bob Kane and his other co-creators made it back in the 1930s, but it has become basically Chicago, where everybody from the mayor on down is corrupt and is in bed with the mob or some other corrupt organization. Illinois' politics is notoriously corrupt across the entire state. The city is corrupt from top to bottom, and they still have a Daley as the mayor, or did up until fairly recently, and that is the most infamous machine still surviving. And so, and the fact they had a series about it that was so infamous that starred Kelsey Grammer, that was on Showtime, that when that was a great series that got cut short after 2 seasons because President Obama was coming up as has been president for a couple of years. They cut it off because it shined a bad light on the Illinois politics that he came out of. And so that's what Gotham has to be. And I can't remember the name of that series. I apologize. If I could remember the name of the series. But it's about the mayor of Chicago and how much power he has and how corrupt he is and how corrupt all these other aldermen and how these other politicians are and how in bed with the mafia they are and how in bed the whole state organization is. And that's what Gotham is, because that's what Gotham has to be. But Metropolis is that gleaming city of tomorrow, and they can't be suburbs of each other. It's just a stupid decision.
It is, and I can wholeheartedly second what you said, because I don't care who knows it. I'm in Illinois right now. I'm talking to you from the People's Republic of Illinois. And it's interesting that Gotham is turning into Chicago turns into Baghdad. But, no, seriously. Yeah, Bradford Walker in the chat correctly pointed out that everyone outside of Cook County, Illinois, hates Cook County, Illinois. And yes, I often have tried to start the petition to dig the moat, or just start at the Lake Michigan shoreline, and just dig a big trench all the way around Cook County, kind of just kick it off into Lake Michigan, and forcibly force it to secede from Illinois. And that would make Illinois a red state overnight.
The show was called Boss, and it was on the Starz Network. And it lasted for 2 seasons, and it was a brilliantly done show, impeccably acted, just absolutely incredible. And it very much showed that corrupt side of Chicago.
Yeah, and I think the trend started when Nolan decided to shoot here for Dark Knight, because most of Dark Knight was shot in Chicago.
Well, I'll be honest. I always thought that Gotham was supposed to represent Chicago just because of the mob. And I know that back in the 1930s, New York City was the mob town. I mean, and that's what The Godfather is all about, right? And even up into the 1980s, you had Gotti and the 5 crime families and all that stuff. But it always seemed more Chicago to me than Metropolis. Metropolis always seemed like New York, and Gotham always seemed like Chicago to me when I was a kid.
Well, I mean, you're talking to a guy who actually had a relative back in the 30s who was murdered by the mob and found butchered in a dumpster in Chicago, so you know whereof you speak. It's it's because the Chicago outfit was a different animal than like the 5 families of New York, and we could get into that at another point, but yeah, it is more like the way that the mob is portrayed in Gotham City. I mean, look at like the meeting of the crime families at the beginning of Dark Knight, right? It's very cosmopolitan. You know, it's that is definitely more like Chicago style organized crime and politics. But Yeah, I remarked on Twitter that Wolfman's blog post was the best write-up on Metropolis and Gotham that I had read since the DC Heroes 3rd edition source book, where DC brought in some of their biggest talent, like Denny O'Neil and like Neil Gaiman, to fill in some of the background material for the game setting. And there's an essay on Gotham and an essay on Metropolis. And at least at this point in time, circa 1993, when the book came out around about the time of the Death and Return of Superman, the editorial take on those two cities is that Gotham is basically like the megalopolis that New Jersey never had. It's like if Chicago had been relocated to Jersey. And then Metropolis is based more on Toronto, Canada.
Gotham is blue-collar crime. Metropolis is white-collar. Gotham is dirty and dark. Metropolis is gleaming and white. And both of them have street crime, but Gotham is a lot darker and more personal and mobbed up. It's a lot more gothic, which is appropriate for the name.
Yeah, here we go. Well, real quick, Bradford says, Gotham is New York City at night. Metropolis is New York City in the daytime.
Yeah.
But go ahead, go on.
No, that was it. I mean, you just have to look at the respective, rogues galleries for Batman and Superman. Gotham is very much a low-powered city. It's street-level crime. It's not a Superman. You don't need Superman to patrol Gotham.
Right.
So, all right, but the point, bringing this back to the original point, which is that one decision to put Gotham and Metropolis across the bay from each other, ruined Metropolis, ruined Gotham, and it's going to be a bad decision that Zack Snyder made, which is going to haunt the DCEU until they decide to reboot the whole schmash.
Yeah.
So whereas Marvel has been making good decision after good decision as far as, or at least not terrible decisions outside of Agents of Suck, as far as their properties go. And you'll notice that the movies do everything they can to ignore Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pretends it's in the same continuity as the movies and tries to link into them, but the movies ignore Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as much as possible. They've never once acknowledged the existence of it.
And Joss Whedon has gone on the record as saying, nah, I'm just going to forget about that.
And that's because Melissa Tinker Rowan and Jeb Whedon, is that his name?
I don't know.
They're terrible. They make bad decisions. They make worse decisions than Zack Snyder, in my opinion.
Lord.
But he's made a bunch of bad decisions that are a bad foundation for the entire DC extended universe, and it's going to haunt them for years to come. All right, let's move on to the Dragon Awards, which
okay.
Alyssa, do you have any other final comments about that?
No, I'm good. Let's get on to the Dragons.
Rather than discussing like absolutely everything, what were the highlights of the nominees of the Dragons? Is there anything that you or just what were your overall impressions of the nominees? The Dragon Awards, by the way, are the awards for Dragon Con, which were just announced last week. Were announced, 5-6 days ago? And voting is now open. You can go and register and vote. And there are 15 categories, including Best Sci-Fi Fantasy Miniatures Collectible Card Role-Playing Games, Best Sci-Fi Fantasy Board Games, Mobile Games, PC Console Games, Movies, TV Series, Graphic Novels, Comic Book, Horror Novel, Apocalyptic History, Fantasy Novel, Young Adult Middle Grade Novel, Fantasy Novel, and Science Fiction Novel. I took those in reverse order because I just wanted to show you that they fully support all things Fanish, whereas that other award, the older award, the Suckjust Award, banned video games, even though video games technically met the requirements for best associated work. They banned anyone who nominated them this year. Never announced that they were going to do so. They just decided to do it, which meant all of my nominations I nominated by the way, Fallout 4 for a Hugo this year. They just decided all arbitrarily to ban it. So if you want to talk about an award that is in line with what real fans, what media real fans are really watching, are really consuming, really love, the award that allows you to vote for fantasy, board games, collectible card, miniature, role-playing games, console games, mobile games, movies, TV shows. That's the award that really represents what the fans love, whereas the award that decides to shit all over video games doesn't. I bet you money, and I don't, you'll be a sucker to take me up on this, but if you want to, I'll happily take your money, any amount you want to name. I bet you money more people play Fallout 4 than have ever read the novel that wins for best novel for the Hugos this year.
Oh, without a doubt. And that's my take on it. Really, first of all, it was interesting, just the low-key way they're doing this. Because remember when the Hugos were announced with all the pomp and circumstance and, you know, the live streams and the Twitter feeds and whatnot. And the first I heard of the Dragon Awards coming, the actual voting process opening was on Thursday night. I opened up my email and it said, "Here's your Dragon ballot." Like, oh, I almost forgot about that. Open it up. Oh, I'm on it. Very nice. Yeah, they gave me no heads up that I was a nominee. It was great. But, so yeah, Soul Dancer's nominated for Best Horror Novel.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Even though the predecessor in Ethereal is partially set in hell, yeah, this one's scarier. And also it means, I got to thank Russell Newquist, my good buddy and fellow author and publisher out there, who made me amend my blog post announcing that Soul Dancer was eligible. It's like, no, you do not want to slot it into the fantasy or sci-fi category because it'll be up against John C. Wright and Larry. Go for horror. Yeah. Like,
Jim Butcher's Aeronauts Windlass. That was a tough one in Best Fantasy Novel. Son of the Black Sword and the Aeronauts Windlass, Butcher versus Korea. I honestly don't remember which one I voted for right now. So I remember I was going back and forth between those two.
Oh, hey, Dornall is in the chat. Hey, Dornall.
Best sci-fi and fantasy PC console game. There was Overwatch, This Dungeon, Metal Gear Solid 5, Fallout 4, XCOM 2, Undertale. I mean, these are fairly representative of what real fans would vote for. Best sci-fi fantasy movie, Ant-Man, Captain America, Civil War, Crimson Peak, which I didn't see, The Martian, Deadpool, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I saw all of those except Crimson Peak. Sci-fi fantasy TV series, Daredevil, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, Outlander, The Flash, Jessica Jones, Expanse.
Look, here's my takeaway. Yeah, go ahead.
These awards clearly represent what fans really watch, what fans really read. Just read through them. And these really do represent what the fans of science fiction and fantasy, not the capital F fans, but what real fans watch and read.
Yeah, the Dragon ballot alone has definitively nuked the Chorf argument that the Hugos in any way represented the will of greater fandom. This is what you get when you have an actual People's Choice Award and let anyone vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And look how closely it resembles the Sad Puppies reading list. Like, it's almost verbatim. And it's not because the Sad Puppies rigged the dragon somehow. That would have been far beyond our power. It's because the puppies were right about, they were telling the truth the whole time about wanting the awards to reflect the popular zeitgeist. And surprise, surprise, when DragonCon actually opens up an award to let anyone vote, that's what you get.
Yep. I'm excited for the Dragons. I'm happy. It is not an award that's designed to allow a small clique to control it. It is the Anti-Click Award. It is not an award that's designed to be just a captive of a teeny tiny audience of 4,000 people at one, dying ring of conventions. It is truly a fan award by the real fans of science fiction and fantasy. These are not people who spent 20 years talking to each other. These are the people who really read science fiction, really, go to science fiction movies, really play science fiction and fantasy video games. These are real people in the real world who don't have to sit around telling each other how much better they are because they're the ones who really love science fiction and fantasy. These are the people who just do love it. They don't have to stroke their own egos about how much they love it, how much better they are than other people because they do.
And you know what? There's some SJW picks on there. There's some stuff that's popular with the Chorfs, and that's fine because they are a part of this whole big tent. But
sure,
if you look at it, it's like one every other category. You'll have like an N.K. Jemisin or an Ann Leckie or a Scalzi who apparently has accused himself. Smart move. But that's their actual, sorry guys, that's your actual proportion. You now have representation proportionate to your actual population and fandom. There you go. But, you're at the table. Can't really complain.
Yeah, you can no longer dominate all the awards.
You can be at the table, but you can't try to run it.
Yep.
And that's fine. Bring your A game. We'll do business. I'm ready for you.
So very excited about the Dragons. Very excited to see who wins. I just want to say thanks to all my readers who found me worthy of a nomination. I was not expecting this at all. I appreciate it, and I appreciate it so much that Soul Dancer is now half price in the Kindle store, and I also went ahead and enrolled it in Kindle Unlimited, so you can download it for free if you Amazon Prime or Kindle Unlimited. So there you go. And this is something that Anonmi brings up in the chat, which is great. The Dragon Awards are all about writing good stuff. It's not about who you sit next to at a convention, as that anecdote by Stephen King talked about.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any last thoughts, Brian?
Well, again, thank you to all the readers. I'm glad that authors and readers are finally having fun at awards time again. Yay. And congratulations to all my fellow nominees, including N.K. Jemisin and Ann Leckie and John Scalzi, but especially John C. Wright, Nick Cole, Larry Correa, Jim Butcher, Declan Finn, Marina Fontaine. I know I'm forgetting some people. Just congratulations, everybody. You earned it. Your readers put you there, fair and square. To the victor go the spoils.
My last thought is I just want to thank the Dragon Awards for starting real awards for real fans and moving beyond the time when a small clique of people could claim to be representing everybody in the world while trying to exclude everybody in fandom except for themselves. All right, folks. This has been Geek Gab for Saturday, August 13, 2016. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. For those of you who turned in live to the chat, thanks for showing up. For those of you who are getting us later via iTunes or the Google Play, by the way, we are officially on Google Play. People have subscribed successfully to that. So you can search for Geek Gab on Google Play and subscribe to our podcast there. You can subscribe to us on SoundCloud. You can subscribe to us through the iTunes store. Just search for Geek Gab. Or, of course, you can come to our homepage on YouTube. And the URL for that is is.good/geekgab. That is.good/geekgab. We're here about once a week, barring, acts of God and sickness.
One more thing.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. We are signing out for tonight, but don't worry. We will be back.
Shout out to Stoic Rider.